Joining us now from Islamabad, Pakistan, Chief Foreign Affairs Correspondent Andrea Mitchell. Andrea, good morning. The horrific market bombing that took at least 100 lives. What's the connection, if any, with Secretary Clinton's visit there?
Well, certainly the feeling here is that this was a deliberate signal from the extremists to say that they could still pull something like this off. It was horrific. It was the worst bombing, the worst attack here in 2 years. It was in Peshawar and targeting women and children in a market. The schools, Mika, have been closed for more than a week since previous terror bombing, so there were a lot of children there. A lot of the victims were women and children. It was a marketplace that they frequented. And then today, Hillary Clinton went to Lahore, which is the second largest city. There were a lot of threats. It was a security nightmare for the details. They basically cleared the city, and she went and she paid tribute in traditional ways. She went to one of the shrines there for a Pakistani leader, a poet who is terribly important. She went to a mosque, but she also sat down not only with the opposition leader Sharif. She sat down in a town hall meeting. She addressed university students, and she faced a barrage of criticism from them. They said, "Why should we trust you now when you have betrayed us in the past?" There's a long history here, and for reasons that may be unclear to Americans, every time we give support, military support to Pakistan and urge them to fight for their own territories, it is resented back in Pakistan. So they were asking her about the U.S. drone attacks against those strongholds, the Taliban and extremist strongholds, and she said, look, if you want to give up, a quarter of your country, that's your choice. I think that is the wrong choice. A very contentious town hall meeting. Afterwards, I talked to some of her aides. They said that she felt good about it. She's going to be on her way back to Islamabad for crucial meetings with the military here. Mika?
I want to hear from both you and Richard about this soundbite. Here is Hillary Clinton talking about aid money, and you're right. I mean, she's really putting it on the line here. Take a listen.
You don't have to believe it. We don't have to give you the money. I mean, this is like, this is not, nobody is saying you must take this money.
Contentious, but also, I mean, she makes a point. It's a difficult relationship, is it not, Andrea?
Yes, and she's trying to, she tried to put on a charm offensive. This is public diplomacy. That was a roundtable with television anchors. And at the same time, in talking to them afterwards, many of them felt that it was falling flat. There's a lot of repair work to do here. This is a contentious relationship.
All right, Andrea Mitchell live in Islamabad. Thank you. We'll be watching you at 1 o'clock Eastern Time on MSNBC, and back with us here in New York, the president of the Council on Foreign Relations, Richard Haass. Why is this relationship so difficult to navigate, the United States and Pakistan?
Pakistan has been in existence for just over 60 years, and when Pakistanis look at their history, they feel frustrated by it. They look at all the times where they lost out to India. They feel there's times where they didn't get the aid they deserved. They have a narrative. And they have a narrative where they feel betrayed. They feel that the United States has let them down. They feel like the victim. They play the victim card, and no matter what we do, it's rarely enough.
So given what you're saying and given what we just saw, do you think the way Hillary Clinton was approaching, communicating there, do you think that will resonate?
As you heard from Andrea, it will barely make a dent. We are going up against the full force of history. So in a funny sort of way, the more we try to help, the more we underscore the fact that they're dependent on us. They don't like it. It's the only thing harder than dealing with your adversaries sometimes is dealing with your so-called friends. This is the most neuralgic relationship we probably have going right now.
Okay, so riddle me this, as Ring Lardner once said. Why does it seem each time we have these horrendous events in either Pakistan or Afghanistan, it seems as if there is more outrage here on our editorial pages and in our political system towards what happened than there is there when it's them who are the principal victims? Why is that?
It's exactly right. Two reactions. One is, until that changes, Mike, I don't think these places are going to turn around. We can't care more about their futures than they do. So when we have the reaction you described, that to me is something of a warning sign. And I think what you're seeing there is mixed politics in these societies. There is some sympathy for some of these groups because of what they're doing. You have people in government, people in the society who actually have some sympathy for these groups. They don't have the clear-cut opposition to them. So until the Pakistanis react to the sort of bombing in Peshawar yesterday and say, we're going to crack down on these guys with everything that we have, until they see these people as real threats, we're not going to make progress.
What is this sympathy based on?
Oh, it's ideological support. The fact that over the years they've worked together. Some of the same people doing the bombings are the same people the Pakistanis worked with for years against, say, the Soviets in Afghanistan. They have ideological sympathies. They have religious sympathies. It's not a straightforward calculation.
Joe?
But you know, at the same time, Richard, there's always been this grim scenario over the past 5, 6, 7 years. What happens when the extremists take over in Pakistan? What happens when Al-Qaeda extremists get control of nuclear weapons? The fact is, in Pakistan, just as in Afghanistan, they account for maybe 5–10% of the population. And in Pakistan, the thing I've noticed is through all of this unrest over the past 24 months, the center always seems to hold. The middle class seems to hold. They ignore the protests for the most part and keep going. How do we reach out to them, and how do we marginalize the 10, 15, 20% of the Muslim extremists that are making our lives so difficult, and the Pakistanis' lives especially so difficult today?
Well, I think we try to do what the administration is doing. We try to not simply give them military aid, but we also try to give them economic aid. But, Joe, we can't kid ourselves. To put it bluntly, the Pakistanis are hard to help. We're trying to tell them your biggest challenge are these extreme issues you've just talked about. A lot of the military and a lot of the people in Pakistan think their biggest problem is India. So they don't want to orient what the military and police forces do.
So, Richard, what do we do? I mean, as I said earlier, failure's not an option here. Pakistan, stable Pakistan, let's be blunt, is a hell of a lot more important than a stable Afghanistan. How do we stabilize that country? How do we reach out and create a long-term relationship?
Well, Joe, the answer may not be how do we succeed. The bigger question may be how do we avoid failing. Some situations are conditions rather than problems to be fixed. I think with Pakistan, our goal should be not to make it Switzerland. It should be to keep it from failing, to keep it from collapsing.
How do we do that?
Oh, it's exactly what we're doing. We basically try to give them military aid, but get them to orient it towards the real problems inside their country.
We've been doing this for 8 years.
We haven't been, no, actually we haven't been doing a lot of it for 8 years. Well, too much of what we gave them was a blank check. Too much of it was not sufficiently conditioned, though as the administration has painfully learned, when we try to condition the aid, you get the pushback, you get the resentment. I think the bottom line, Joe, with Pakistan, there is and there probably will continue to be a gap between the importance of our interests and the scale of our influence. And that gap between our interests and our influence is frightening, and I don't think we can close it. All we can try to do is manage this problem. We're going to have good days with the Pakistanis, and we're going to have bad days, but there's not going to be a breakthrough. Let's not kid ourselves.
Hey, Mika, let's talk about a poll out yesterday. We're talking about Pakistan, Afghanistan, obviously healthcare. These are very, very important issues, but to the American people, they don't even register when it comes to a comparison between that and the economy. Look at this, and we've got Mike Barnicle on the set. Barnicle, you have been saying for 9 months, and I'm going to repeat it again because it bears repeating, this is not tough. Mike Barnicle's been saying for the past 9 months the president's top 3 priorities, domestically at least, should be the economy, and the economy. Those numbers bear it out. 41% and no other issues even close.
Joe, not only that, but it seems to be growing. We have the new jobless report coming out at 8:30, and if you leave the numbers and think of the human destruction, the lives, the economic lives in peril in this country, the toll is enormous. And there's a whole group of people, I put them at the age 50 to about 62, 63, who have lost jobs that are never going to come back to them again. And the social casualties are just beyond description in this country right now.